2 out, 3-2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
The 1986 Red Sox season, once so unbearable to relive, no longer should simply be viewed as a tale of heartbreak and defeat.
You can't look at it as a failure. We had a great year.
We're American League champions. We were picked to finish 5th.
No one chose us to be in the World Series, and we was in the World Series.
30 years later, liberated by the success of recent Red Sox teams.
Can you believe it?
World champs again. World champions!
The saga of that one strike-away season deserves to be retold. Do not shy away from its painful ending. Instead, take pride and satisfaction, and yes, even joy in the journey that preceded it.
Here they come up at Fenway. A new record. The Red Sox are the new division champions.
You're looking at one for the ages here.
The 1986 Red Sox are champions worth remembering and saluting. Hi, I'm Bob Lobel. Let's turn back the clock, okay, and take a look at that 1986 Red Sox baseball team. You got to remember that it had been 68 years since they won a World Series. It had been 11 years since they had been to the postseason of any kind. So when they all got to spring training that year, very little was expected of that 1986 team.
I think we were picked to finish 5th that year.
There was some negativity, but I think just for the fact that we haven't won, or they had gotten really, really close and just hadn't won.
We were all aware of it, you know, especially with the media that you have back here. It's constantly a daily thing that tells you how bad you were or how bad you were going to go ahead and be.
Despite the negative media attention, the team felt differently.
We're going to be there right to the wire. I got to believe it. You know, I say it every year, and it's hard for me. I shake my head at the end of the year. Why didn't we do it?
Well, I think if you ask any other people in baseball, that they would feel that the Red Sox have a shot at winning this year. I think that maybe we'll surprise some people.
There's a strikeout for Lawler on his first man.
When you come to spring training, you know, you're getting your work done, and obviously we had an extremely talented team.
Earl Weaver from the Baltimore Orioles told me that pitching was 90% of the game. So I started looking around. Roger Clemens. I didn't know Calvin Ciraldi was going to be that good that year.
Bruce Hurst was coming into his own. Clemens was off the charts.
Can, Mike Brown, Nipper, Hurst.
You put that starting pitching with the way we scored runs, we had a lot of potential.
You had all-stars in the lineup. You had Boggsy and JR and Dewey and Tony Armas and Billy Buckner, and I thought we had an outstanding catcher in Rich Kidman too.
Just a really, really solid team, and we knew it.
The puzzle wasn't quite finished.
They have not shut the door on any possible further dealing.
On March 28th, the Red Sox brought in a new right-handed hitter.
There was a trade in spring training, and we brought over Don Baylor.
The Easler for Baylor, I respected and loved both of them.
I had played against Donnie for so long. His presence alone, when he walks in the room and says something, people listen.
He brought some really good seriousness, and professionalism to our locker room, along with some fun with the kangaroo court.
Don Baylor was our judge, and he played a good judge.
There weren't a lot of people arguing with the judge, I know that.
It was all fun and games with the kangaroo court, but it also taught you to learn and look for things that people might have been doing wrong, and we all got better at not doing those things quite so often.
Young players need a leader that kind of tells them what to do, and I don't know anybody that would cross Don Baylor.
One of those players that makes that team a championship ball club. He fit like that perfect little piece of the puzzle right there.
A talented roster was in place, but it was still way too early to know how they'd play as a team.
One of the intrinsic things with teams that seem to always play well is the chemistry, the camaraderie and the bonding. I think that's what helped make a successful team.
Spring went like any other spring, and the guys were getting ready. They were excited about the season to start. We'll find out right away just how good we are going into Detroit.
Left-hander Bruce Hurst prepared to take the mound as the team headed out to Detroit for the season opener. The Red Sox season in 1986 began on April 7th in Detroit against the Tigers, who had won the World Series 2 years prior.
When we went into Detroit opening day, it just seemed different.
Even in Game 1, there was something special in the air.
I actually had a dream, and I told my wife about it. I said, I had a dream that I let off and hit the first pitch out. We're in Tiger Stadium. Jack Morris is on the mound. I'm leading off, and I took my bat and I looked right at Barrett and I said, I'm going deep on the first pitch.
First pitch of the 86th season, and here it is. Long drive, left center field. Way back, left center, and gone. Home run, Dwight Evans.
I got the fastball I wanted, and I hit it to left center, and it went out, but no one was more surprised than me. Nice way to start a season.
The Red Sox put up 12 hits, 5 runs, but they lost to the Tigers by 1. The teams then split the next 2 games as the Sox bats collected a combined 35 hits over the 3-game series.
In my mind, I sat there and went, if this is the best team, we can play with them. And I think everybody else felt that way too.
On April 29th, the Red Sox were 9-8, 1 game over 500, and were 2.5 games back in the division.
Right out of the gate, we were take 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and really couldn't get any momentum. The one thing that sort of started the jump start was Rogers' 20 strikeout game.
I get up and I'm working my way towards Fenway Park and I get stuck on Storer Drive in some traffic, and about 40 minutes go by and we've gone, I don't know, 5 car lengths. So I'm starting to panic now, so I have Debbie move over to the driver's seat. I jump out and I'm gonna run.
Traffic can play a role in getting to the ballpark.
I hear a little siren kind of hit me from behind and turn around, it's a Boston motorcycle police officer. And he's like, you got a problem? Your car broke down. I said, no, and then he recognized me. He said, hey, aren't you? And I go, yeah, I am. And I mean, that's how it was choppy, the conversation, to say the least. And he kind of split the sea for me. And Bill Fisher, our pitching coach, he's ready to scratch me from the start. And I said, please don't do this. And I think I heard Fish say at one point, he told McNamara and them to get somebody ready because this is going to be a short outing.
One thing that Roger may have in their favor, he's certainly a strikeout pitcher. This Seattle ball club has struck out now 154 times, which will easily lead the American League in that department, so maybe he can take advantage of them that way.
Got it. And strike 3. Got it. Rather startling and awesome first inning. So he seems to be on right now.
There was no action. It's almost like he was putting us to sleep. It's like, okay, Roger, this is your show. Go ahead and do it. If anything come out, we'll back you up. But did anything come out there?
Strike 3. Strike 3.
It was kind of like playing catch, and that's no disrespect to the Seattle Mariners. He was so on.
Now he's gotten everybody in the lineup.
It was a lot of fun. I'm sure he was having a blast, and I don't think any of us really knew the record at the time. And if anybody was looking up there in right field to see the K's, they all ran together, so we couldn't tell how many there were.
2-2 pitch. Strike 3.
The K's kept getting stuck up there on behind us. Oh, another one. Oh, that was nasty.
19 for Roger Clemens.
Nip came out and said, hey, you know, you can set an all-time record. He said, you got to go for it.
A new record. Clemens has set a major league record for strikeouts in a game. 20.
Every night that we came to the ballpark, we knew that if Rogers pitched, we had a chance to win.
You knew that any given time that if you go through a rut, that this guy had a chance to come in and shut the door and get you a win.
I think it was a stepping stone not only for me, but to show my teammates that I was healthy. And Bill Fisher said, get to the ballpark whenever you want.
It was a pleasant surprise, and certainly he became the man amongst men.
And then after that, we sort of took off because the pitchers said, wow, if we can jump on his back and ride him, and then our offense started clicking on all cylinders.
I know that shortly after that, we did get into first place.
The Sox stormed into May, going 21-7 that month, outscoring the opposition by 50 runs. But they didn't make it through without a few bumps and bruises.
Al Nipper would come in, and it didn't matter how he felt. He was going to go out there and throw whatever he had at that team and give it his best.
Watch out, there's a wild pitch. Nipper covering home, the throw by Gedman. He is out at home. Nipper is hurt.
A nasty collision at home plate. I think his knee or his calf got cut up extremely. It was a nasty slide that he had.
2 weeks after Nipper went down, Bruce Hurst and Sammy Stewart were hurt as well.
And Hurst is down.
However, at the end of that month, they had soared to a record of 32-15 and actually had a 2.5 game lead in the division. The 1986 Red Sox really got off to a great start in June. They were 32-15 and actually had a 2.5 game lead in the division. However, in the middle of that month, tragedy struck the ball club.
Before we get into the lineups, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to make our wishes known to the Boggs family. Wade Boggs lost his mother today in a car accident in Tampa, Florida.
We had gone to New York, and the phone in the training room, the clubhouse attendant picked it up and said, hello, and they said, Boggsy, it's your niece. I said, hello, and says, Uncle Bubba, this is Rebecca. Nanny Sue has died. And that's the last thing I remembered. After the funeral, talked to my father, talked to my wife Debbie, and said, I gotta get back to Boston. And came to the ballpark next day, and on Monday I was in the lineup and walked to the plate and got about a 10-minute standing ovation.
Quite a dramatic moment for Wade Boggs.
It seemed like eternity, but the tremendous fans of Boston understood the situation. I knew I had to come back, and I had to get between the white lines. I had to put everything behind me and move on. And I felt kind of secure in between the lines, but I was a basket case on the outside. When you add life to baseball, it becomes relevant. And I knew that I had baseball in the future, but I didn't have my mother.
One of the great things about the personality of the 1986 Red Sox is that when they got into a close game, they figured out a way to win.
Ray Quinones, the batter. Runners at second and third.
Did he call a balk?
They have called a balk.
Did he call a balk?
Boone is awfully mad.
He did.
They must have.
Yes,
Red
sir.
Sox win it. A balk has been called, and Evans comes home. And another impossible win for Boston.
And that's kind of the common denominator amongst all these teams that have really good years and have those special years. You kind of stay away from the injuries, and you win a lot of kind of fluky type games.
Marty Barrett up. Lions at second with a tying run. Curveball hit toward right field.
What happened was the guy dove for it and it bounced off his glove, and I come sliding into second, and Steve's sliding into second at the same time from the shortstop side.
Lions going back to second, Barrett's on second base.
I remember saying, what are you doing here? And he got up and took off to third.
Right, running across the diamond, throws, and it is running coming up, goes in the dugout. Lions comes on to score, and that will do it. The game is over on a wild pitch and a wild throw by George Wright. The Red Sox win.
It was a walk-off double and then an error or something like that, but that was funny.
Mark Sullivan, the batter, bases loaded.
There was an outstanding game where to drive in the winning run, I got hit with a slider in the butt, obviously, and the crowd went crazy, and so did I.
That's good enough. And it hits him. This game is over. Red Sox win it 8-7 on a hit batsman.
So whatever it takes to get the job done.
We won another game in Cleveland in the fog. We won a game in the fog. I can remember that. That was just kind of the stupidest thing in the world.
It was real ridiculous. I think what happened is they hit a fungo to see if Dwight could see it.
And I don't know why, but the umpires picked me in right field and picked a coach to hit me fly balls. I could see the balls. I'm looking up, I'm acting like I can't see the ball, and I kind of duck like it's going to hit me. The ball lands over there. This went on for about 4 or 5 fly balls, and finally the umpires went, game over, game over. And so we won.
Went in, showered, had a couple beers, and then the next thing you know, we walk out there, and it was a clear sky right there. And that was kind of, that was kind of an omen. I said, there's some good things going to happen to this ball club.
With luck seemingly on the Red Sox side, they went into July with a 49-25 record and an 8-game lead in the division. The Red Sox got to the midpoint of the 1986 season riding high. They had the best record in the American League.
Very high into left field. Jim Rice coming on. And this one's history, and Roger Clemens has his 12th in a row.
However, there were injuries to Bruce Hurst and Al Nipper, and the Red Sox had to look for help outside the organization. And they did. They found it in Chicago. They sent Steve Lyons to the White Sox for future Hall of Famer Tom Seaver.
One of the few times I've ever seen a starter get a standing ovation going to the bullpen. Certainly seen a lot of them coming back.
Granted, he wasn't the Tom Terrific of the Mets or anything along those lines, but he knew how to pitch and he knew how to get people out. And he could work with different things, and he could talk to various pitchers on, well, if this isn't working, go to plan B. And if plan B's not working, then modify it a little bit and maybe go to plan B minus. And that's basically what Tom was talking to the young pitchers about, just explaining the game on the art of pitching.
With Seaver on board, the '86 Red Sox entered the All-Star break with a 56-31 record. Good enough for a 7-game lead in the AL East.
ABC Sports presents the 1986 All-Star Game. From the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, for the 57th time, the American League takes on the National League. And the starting pitchers, Roger Clemens and Dwight Gooden.
4 players were honored for their first-half efforts with All-Star selections. Wade Boggs, Roger Clemens, Rich Gedman, and Jim Rice traveled to Houston to represent the American League at the Midsummer Classic.
Good fastball. It's softly in the center for a base hit, so Boggs is on. He goes after the first pitch and hits it down to Whitaker, and Roger Clemens, in his hometown, pitches 3 perfect innings.
It was a good win, and I'll get home, and I'm sure that when the season ends, I'll look over all the year, the 20 strikeouts, and hopefully a pennant-winning season for the Red Sox and all this.
A 5th Red Sox player felt he should have gone to the All-Star game as well.
Oil Can Boyd, upon learning that he had not been selected to the American League All-Star team by manager Dick Hauser of the Kansas City Royals, threw a tantrum in the clubhouse and then left the ballpark an hour before last night's game.
You know, my emotions got carried away. As you remember, I got suspended. I got so mad that, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't believe that, at the time, I was only second to one pitcher in the major league, and that pitcher was on my team, and that was Roger Clemens. So I felt like, without a doubt, that I should have been chosen for the All-Star team.
Oil Can very emotional too, and you could see his intensity when he went out to pitch. He gave it his all the time, and this man has a big heart. When he wasn't selected to the All-Star game, he was upset.
That year, I think he should have been at the All-Star game. But then again, when you're talking about guys having certain years, and guys are like that, hey man, I may not have another year like this. My number's just as good as anyone. I should be at the All-Star game.
I took it to heart. I soon, just recently, a couple of days ago, got over it. But it's...
With Boyd suspended due to the clubhouse outburst, the Red Sox struggled to start the second half.
High to left field. Boy, you can tell it goodbye. This baby is way up there. He could touch them all, and the Mariners win.
By August 5th, the Red Sox lead in the division was down to 2.5 games. As the 1986 Red Sox approached the midway point in the season, both John McNamara and Lou Gorman thought they better shake up the team, so they retrieved Calvin Schiraldi from AAA.
Schiraldi has saved it. Gets his first save for the Red Sox.
When a new player comes on the team, the rest of your teammates, they're trying to identify whether or not they can trust you, whether you're going to do the job. And Calvin came in, he threw really hard and ended up closing the door in a lot of games and was a big addition to the staff.
Schiraldi picks up his second save in 2 days.
Next, the Sox shipped 4 players to the Mariners for shortstop Spike Owen and outfielder Dave Henderson.
We're close, we got a chance to win. Owen would give us experience, Henderson would give us experience and depth and speed.
Spike was, I thought we had real similar styles, kind of scrappy.
It wasn't the size of the dog in the fight, it was the size of the fight in the dog. And that's what Spike brought over to his ball club.
Every time he came through the clubhouse door, it's like, we're here, let's win.
Getting a chance to play for a team that's winning the Eastern Division and in a pennant race, it's just it's a great feeling.
Right away, Hindu fit in perfectly with his smile, his attitude.
We knew that we had a quality center fielder in Dave Henderson and bring over a pretty good bat.
It's been a great success for me to hit in Fenway, and I've had a lot of home runs there mostly, and I'm looking forward to getting back in the park and playing there.
We added and upgraded 2 quality positions that were very beneficial for us.
With the roster set, the '86 Red Sox won 11 straight games to end August and begin September.
Baylor toward right field, and he can't get it. This game's over. The Red Sox win it 4-3.
As the team rolled toward the playoffs, there was an incident at Yankee Stadium that further united the team.
And it is Rice. What in the heck has happened down in the left field corner? Jim Rice is up in the stand. Some clown took his hat.
Jimmy was running up the stands, and we had to go in the stands and we're scuffling with fans and everything else.
Jim wasn't that way. For him to do that, I knew something bad happened.
Jimmy reacted to a situation and everybody reacted the same with him. So definitely brought our team together.
By mid-September, the Red Sox amassed a 9-game lead in the division. However, the club received some bad news heading down the stretch. Mid-season acquisition Tom Seaver suffered ligament damage in his knee and did not throw another pitch the rest of the season.
He was that type of pitcher that when he needed something, he could always reach back and get something extra. Just motivated to pitch well, and I know he would have pitched well.
The '86 Red Sox then marched on without the future Hall of Famer, and on a sunny Sunday afternoon at Fenway, they clinched the American League East.
I knew that we was just that ball game away from going to the American League playoff. I was prepared to come out, and that particular day, I had pretty good stuff on the ball, completed the ball game.
Is there. It's all over. The Red Sox are the new division champions.
To jump in Bill Buckner's arms after the game, it was just a really good baseball season.
The 1986 Red Sox did silence all the doubters. They finished with a 95-66 record. By winning the division, they were set up to meet the California Angels for the American League pennant. It was going to be a wild postseason ride.
We're looking in the rearview mirror going, oh man, what in the heck happened?
It made that play, hundreds of times.
Both teams can't win the World Series. One's going to win and one's going to lose.
We will get to relive all those postseason memories, both good and bad, when we bring you part 2 of this Red Sox report, brought to you by CVS Pharmacy. I'm Bob Lobel. Thank you for watching.
With 2 out, 3-2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
The 1986 Red Sox season, once so unbearable to relive, no longer should simply be viewed as a tale of heartbreak and defeat.
You can't look at it as a failure. We had a great year.
We're American League champions. We were picked to finish 5th.
No one chose us to be in the World Series, and we was in the World Series.
30 years later, liberated by the success of recent Red Sox teams,
World champions!
the saga of that one strike-away season deserves to be retold. Do not shy away from its painful ending. Instead, take pride and satisfaction, and yes, even joy in the journey that preceded it.
Here they come up at Fenway. A new record! The Red Sox are the new division champions.
You're looking at one for the ages here.
The 1986 Red Sox are champions worth remembering and saluting. Hi, I'm Bob Lobel, and thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of our look back at the 1986 Red Sox season.
Fenway Park, and the site tonight of Game 1 of the 1986 American League Championship Series.
The first 2 games were in Boston. Each team won a game. So we go back out to California, and the Angels win game number 1 out there. So they're up 2 games to 1. Game 4 was in the 11th inning when Bobby Grich came to the plate for the Angels.
Ripped into left field down the line for a base hit. Darren around third coming in, and the Angels go up 3 games to 1.
That was devastating because it would have been 2-2. Instead, it was down 3-1, and really it looked like it was over.
You know, if we want to get the show back on the road and go back to Boston, then we've got to win.
The 1986 American League Championship Series. I'm Al Michaels. Welcome to Game 5. The Red Sox are still alive, though they must win 3 straight. And, of course, the mathematics are quite simple. The Angels need win only 1 of 3 to win their first ever American League pennant. A home run for Gedman. It's 2-1. And carrying and gone. Just off his glove for a home run. And the Angels lead.
With the Red Sox down 5-2 in the top of the 9th, they stared face to face with the Grim Reaper.
9th inning, Buckner gets a hit.
Toward the middle and by the diving Schofield.
Baylor hit the 2-run homer.
Deep, Pettis goes back, leaps, and she's gone. Don Baylor hits one out, and it's 5-4.
We got a shot now.
2 down, bases empty. Gedman.
Gedman had a great game against Mike Witt, and so they brought in Gary Lucas.
Gedman's like 0 for 11 off this guy. Hadn't even touched the ball all season long.
And, you know, just sitting there going, I really don't want to be the last out here, and try to see the ball the best I could.
Look out. Ooh, it got hit on the hand.
Waited. I thought it was going to break, and I had to put my hand up or it would hit me in the face.
Donnie Moore out of the bullpen to face Dave Henderson. 2 out, 9th inning, 5-4 California.
Hendo was very late on his first swing, and then
1-2.
As the bat went on, he was able to foul off a few pitches.
He kept fouling off these nasty pitches by Donnie Moore.
Stays alive.
And with 2 strikes and 2 outs, you know, you're only hoping.
To left field and deep, and down he goes back, and it's gone! Unbelievable! Anaheim Stadium was a strike away from turning into fantasy land.
You can just see him just jump and land.
I remember jumping out in the field and, you know, lifting him up. I mean, I was so pumped.
Dave Henderson's home run was the biggest home run I ever saw in my life. It just off the charts.
Dave Henderson's home run put the Sox up by a run, but the lead was short-lived.
The throw home is there! No, he's safe!
They go to the top of the 11th inning. Bases loaded. Dave Henderson at the plate.
And it's drilled to the gap in left center field, deep enough to score a run. Pettis makes the catch. Baylor tags. Red Sox lead 7-6.
Once again, the Red Sox had the lead, but the bullpen needed to secure this win.
Up. Here comes Stapleton. Next plane to Boston.
That game was by far the most exciting game I ever played in.
You know, backs against the wall, you have nothing to lose.
As a result, the Red Sox headed back to Boston, rejuvenated and ready to face the next 2 must-win games. Following Dave Henderson's heroics in Game 5 of the ALCS, both teams head back to Boston for what will be the ultimate showdown.
When we got on the charter flight in California to head back to Boston, the feeling which was expressed verbally by several guys, and I said it too, we're going to beat them.
He was just an amazing plane ride. We had so much confidence.
We're still down 3 games to 2, and we didn't even need an airplane to fly us home that day. It was we could all flew home ourselves.
You're looking at one for the ages here.
And these guys went from 1 pitch away from going to the World Series to going home to celebrate, to having to pack their bags and get on a plane to fly cross country to play us again.
Next plane to Boston.
They know now they've got to come back to Boston.
It was really amazing. It really took the wind out of their sails.
Confident after their Game 5 win in Anaheim, the Red Sox came back to Fenway, still knowing they had to win the last 2 games to get to the World Series.
My thing was that I'm there and I'm thinking about what I got to do when we get back home. You know, I got to take charge. I got to do something different. I got to regroup. The key thing here, we know what's on the line.
In 2 lopsided victories, 10-4 and 8-1, the Red Sox won their first pennant in 11 seasons.
And they do. The Boston Red Sox, champions of the American League.
We just came home and just really put the afterburners on them in Game 6 and 7.
We beat them convincingly in those 2 games in Boston.
We're actually going to get a chance to go to a World Series.
So now what I got to do, I got to prepare myself to go to the World Series and do some damage there.
Well, hi once again, everybody. Welcome to Shea Stadium in New York.
Bruce Hurst led the Red Sox to a 1-0 victory in Game 1 with 8 shutout innings.
Hurst has a good curveball, he throws a forkball, has a fastball, and he'll use all of them.
I remember the second game was CLEMENS and GOODEN. It was supposed to be this pitcher's duel and ended up not being quite so well for either one of them.
CLEMENS only lasted 4 1/3 innings, but the Red Sox bats powered Boston to a 2-game series lead.
You just go in there hoping to win 1 game, and then you have home field advantage. So when we won those 2, you're really kind of thinking, okay, we got to go home, and we just went 2 out of 3 at home. This thing's over.
After asserting themselves in enemy territory, the Red Sox headed back to Boston believing they would close out the series at home.
Anytime that you come home, your confidence level got to be a little high because this is your house. You can't let anyone come in and take something out of your house.
I remember we got home, and I think the first batter, Lenny Dykstra with oil can, hit the ball out of the ballpark, and I'm like, that kind of was a little wake-up call for all of us, like, okay, they're not laying down.
I did not think that he was that strong. I was playing the prototypical leadoff hitter, was not so much a put it in play, but it was a line drive, take a lot of pitches, steal bases type leadoff hitter to line it up and hit it like that real good. They came to play.
And it is 6-0 New York.
The Sox lost games 3 and 4 at home, but in Game 5, Hurst tossed another gem. His complete game put Boston 1 win away from a World Series championship.
The 3rd game that we won in Boston was huge. I mean, everything was set up perfectly. I mean, we had already won in New York 2 games and felt comfortable playing there. And, we had some good pitching going. CLEMENS going Game 6. It doesn't get any better than that.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, and welcome to Game 6. The last time the Boston Red Sox won a World Series, the Doughboys were dug in the trenches of France, Mademoiselle Armentières, and finally, Johnny came marching home. They're trying to do it again tonight, and they're giving the ball to the best pitcher in the American League, Roger Clemens.
I know we got Roger going, and I feel like we're in the catbird seat. I really felt good about winning that game.
Got him. Got him on the corner.
The Red Sox led 3-2 going into the 8th.
So Roger goes 7 innings, and he'll give the ball to Calvin Schiraldi.
Schiraldi was in the bullpen and rested and ready to throw.
Immediately, Schiraldi loaded the bases.
Swung on and lined to left, right at Rice. Tagging up is Mazzilli to score. It's a brand new ball game. And at the end of 9, a 3-3 tie. Dave Henderson will lead it off. And a drive to left. Going back on it is Mookie Wilson, and this one is gone. Henderson has done it again.
Marty Barrett provided insurance a few batters later.
And it's hit into center base hit. Here comes Boggs. He will score. And it is 5-3 Red Sox.
And I remember Ray Knight coming up to me, and he said, nice hit, Marty. Nice series. Almost like he was saying, all right, you guys got it.
It's so quiet in New York, you can almost hear Boston.
Red Sox had a 5-3 lead going to the bottom of the 10th. 3 outs away from a World Series victory.
I would be lying if I wasn't thinking about, the Red Sox fans, the city going nuts, Mrs. Yawkey.
Calvin Schiraldi trying to finish off the Mets and the 1986 baseball season.
and then you get 2 quick outs, I mean real quick outs.
And the Mets are down to their last out, and Gary Carter at the plate.
Someone's got to make a play. Make a play and it's over.
Harry Wendelstadt was the umpire at third base, and he goes, "Bogsy, flip me your hat. I collect all the winning third baseman's hats." I said, "It's not over." He says, "It's over. Look at the board." And I look at the board and said, "Congratulations, World Series champions, Boston Red Sox." And I said, "Harry, it's not over."
Lined into left field, base hit for Carter, and the Mets are still alive.
When he got the base hit, you know, you start to think about it a little bit.
Then we had to wait for Kevin Mitchell.
They say he was in the clubhouse eating a hot dog. He came out to pinch hit and he had mustard all over his shirt.
Curveball, and that's going to be hit to center, base hit.
There was a jam shot here, a jam shot there.
And that's going to be hit into center field, base hit. Here comes Carter to score, and the tying run is at third in Kevin Mitchell. And John McNamara goes to the mound. 5-4 Red Sox. He wants Bob Stanley to pitch to Mookie Wilson.
The champagne was in the clubhouse. The trophy was in the clubhouse. Mrs. Yawkey in the clubhouse. Yeah, I saw her walk in.
2 out in the 10th. 5-4 Red Sox. Ray Knight at first. Kevin Mitchell at third. 2-2 to Mookie Wilson. And it's going to go to the backstop. Here comes Mitchell to score the tying run. And Ray Knight is at second base.
The big one was it was a wild pitch and pass ball.
It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they tied it.
With 2 out, 3-2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
Nightmares are that you're going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through your legs.
I was playing pretty deep, but I know I'm not going to be able to get to the bag if I catch a ground ball, but I have to flip it to the pitcher.
I think Bob Stanley probably would have beat Mookie Wilson over to first because Bob was really quick.
You know, it would have been a close play, but I think we got him.
Manager John McNamara later received much criticism for not replacing Buckner with Dave Stapleton at first base. That was a defensive move that was done throughout the season.
He wanted Bill Buckner on the field when we got the final out.
If it was a case where Buckner couldn't get to the ball, then I would be subjected to a second guess.
The ball didn't get by me because I didn't get there. I mean, I've catch the ball 999 times out of 1,000.
Buck been over there the whole year, and all of a sudden you got a chance to win the World Series. I didn't second guess John at all about that.
The people and the naysayers and everybody along the lines that ever say that Billy Buck was the whole reason that the World Series was not obtainable by the Boston Red Sox in 1986 ought to jump off a bridge, because we would have never even been to the playoffs had it not been for the year that Billy Buck had.
You know, a lot of people think that, you know, if he makes that play and tosses him out, we win the World Series. It's still tied. They had already tied it.
The Mets are not only alive, they are well, and they will play the Red Sox in Game 7 tomorrow.
As Game 6 ended, the players made their way to the locker room as the champagne made its way out.
And to be honest with you, I cried after Game 6, because, I mean, it was there. It was there for us to take.
We had 1 strike to go on 5 different guys.
I reminisce silently. Sometimes I even cry about it.
The reporters asked me after the game what went through my mind.
All I can say is I've never played in the 7th game of the World Series, and I get to play one now. I hate to say it's because I missed a ground ball, but that's the way it goes.
But I'm sure that the momentum change that we felt after beating the Angels in Game 5, the Mets felt after beating us in Game 6 of the World Series.
After that devastating loss in Game 6, there was always more hope because there was a Game 7, which was supposed to be played the next night. Red Sox caught a break, so they thought it was rained out.
The rain out day, mainly relaxing. I think a lot of guys probably needed a day to relax and get their thoughts together.
Even though it was Oil Can Boyd's turn in the rotation, the rain out allowed manager John McNamara to skip Boyd and start Bruce Hurst in Game 7.
I was ready and prepared to pitch Game 7. I couldn't believe somebody didn't let Dennis Boyd pitch. It's hard to get over. I ain't been to bed really a good night's sleep since that night. 30 years, I ain't been to bed. So that's how bad it bothers me.
With the extra day of rest, the Red Sox were ready for Game 7.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, and welcome to Game 7. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. That was the beginning of the tale of two cities, and in a few hours, that will be the story of the 1986 World Series.
I still think that it was not a somber atmosphere. The feeling was they had a good pitcher going, Bruce Hurst, and they could win that night.
High drive into deep left center field. That one might go all the way. It is gone. Home run, Dwight Evans. And that's a drive into right center field. Strawberry going back to the wall. At the wall, leaps in the air. One hands it. No, he missed it. And the Sox lead 2-0.
We had the lead. It wasn't like they came out in the first inning and put up a 7 spot and we're looking in the rearview mirror going, oh man, what in the heck happened from everything like this? We had the lead.
And as a hopper by the diving Santana, Mookie's going to come up throwing, but Henderson, because of that big lead, will score easily. And it is 3-0 Boston.
We had the lead. All we had to do was just step on their neck and just put the hammer down.
Bruce Hurst leading 3-0 in the 5th. Got him.
You know, he had a shutout going after 5 innings, and we had 3 runs, and really thought that we were going to win this game. He was pitching great. I think he just ran out of gas.
Base hit for Mazzilli.
We had 3-0 lead, and it just kind of caved in.
Line drive into left field, base hit. And the Mets are alive with 1 out in the 6th.
And I'll never forget, in the bottom of the 6th inning, bases were loaded. Bruce Hurst was on the mound. I said to myself that if he gets a hit, they win. If Hurst gets him out, the Red Sox win, and he lined a 2-run single.
Fastball hitting to left center field, base hit. In comes Mazzilli. In comes Wilson. Stopping at third is Tuffle.
Hurst got out of the inning allowing 3 runs, but the momentum had already shifted to the Mets' favor.
High drive into deep left center. Back goes Rice. This one is gone. Punched inside first and down the line. Dykstra will score. High drive into deep right field. Evans back at the wall. Gone.
We had the lead in Game 7 and should have brought home the bacon in Game 7, but it dwindled away and then wound up losing the lead and then eventually losing the World Series.
That was painful. That was one of the harder things you have to deal with, That's where being the New England guy was very difficult. Where, some of the guys that played on the Red Sox heard some of the stories, but they didn't live it. And it really just would have been something special to have gotten the last out and won the World Series, but it just didn't happen. We had more chances to win than lose, and somehow, some way, we just didn't get it done. But it wasn't from lack of effort. It wasn't from lack of trying. It was just the twist of fate.
Two days after Game 7, the Red Sox were back in Boston. Not world champions, but still heroes to their fans.
750,000 people lined the streets of Boston today to welcome the Red Sox back home. A parade and rally showed the players that the Mets might have the trophy this year, but no one beats the Boston fans.
There was 750,000 people that were, we were driving down the road down from the ballpark to downtown, and people in offices waving and being congratulatory towards us. It was truly amazing.
The fans were very good to me. I mean, they got a lot of ovation, and Haven got up and said something on the microphone.
I just wanted to say, we needed this, and thank you. And God bless all of you.
I felt bad, but the fans made me feel better.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I was very proud to be on the '86 team. To see the faces of the fans looking back at you To see the passion that Boston brought us and to see that parade was one of the greatest examples of the relationship and the love that the fans have for this team.
Them New York fans got no chance over you guys. They got no chance.
Despite all the heartache and disappointment of that 1986 Red Sox team, they were vindicated by future world championships in 2004, 7, and 13. They weren't a failure by any stretch of the imagination. They really should be celebrated for what they were able to achieve. It wasn't a remarkable year. It just didn't end perfectly.
We were one strike away, or one out, if you will, away from having that championship ring. That's how close and great this team was. You can't look at it as a failure. We had a great year. We took it all the way to the wire and came up one out short, but it was a fantastic year. I mean, I loved every bit of it.
We were winners. We were American League champions. We were picked to finish 5th. We got a ring for that and go on to the World Series and just didn't finish with the ultimate goal of bringing the World Series back to Boston. But no, by no means of the imagination were we losers. We were the American League champions and very proud of that, but just came up a little bit short.
It was a very special year. You have to be very fortunate, very lucky to win a World Series. When you come to the playoffs and it's just a few games, one injury, one freaky play, one foul ball, one fan reaching over, and one bad call can throw something out of whack. And it can be unfortunate, but that's part of the excitement. You couldn't say 67 was a tragedy. You couldn't say 75 was a tragedy. Those were huge, huge years that build an organization, and it makes us want to even work even harder to win a World Series.
Things happen, not all good. I look back at my career and say, would you change anything? I wouldn't change anything. I achieved a lot of good things, and fortunately one of them was not winning a World Series. Coming very close, but not winning.
The 86 season had to be tough for the fans. Many lifetimes had passed, and Red Sox fans failed to see the Red Sox win the World Series. And would I have loved to have been the team that broke that curse? Absolutely. But since that time, you look back at 2004 and 2007, 2013, that's 3 World Championships in 10 years. And the way I look at the odds on that, the Red Sox have more than made up for that drought going back to 1918.